Has your birth parent ever conveniently come back into your life when they needed something? I was lying in pre-op with an IV in my arm, waiting for them to wheel me into surgery. In 20 minutes, I was going to donate my kidney to my birth father, Robert. I grew up in 11 different foster homes and never knew my biological family. Then a year ago, Robert found me through a private investigator. He told me he'd been searching for me since my mom died. We spent 6 months building a relationship. He told me stories about my mom that made me cry. He took me to baseball games, and for the first time, I felt like I actually had a dad. Then one night at dinner, he went quiet, and his hands were shaking when he set down his fork. "I need to tell you something," he said quietly. "My kidneys are failing. I need a transplant." I felt like someone punched me in the chest. "I'll get tested tomorrow," I said immediately, and grabbed his hand across the table. "Please let me do this for you." We were a perfect match, and for the first time, I had family. The testing took 6 months, and now here I was about to go into surgery. A nurse came in smiling. "Your dad's already in the pre-op holding area waiting for you," she said cheerfully. "He seems really excited." Another nurse came in holding a thick folder. "I need you to initial a few more pages before we can proceed," she said, and handed me a pen. My hands were shaking. I was flipping through the pages when I noticed a date at the top of one of the documents. Robert's first consultation at the transplant center, March 15th. I stared at that date, and something about it felt off. The nurse was waiting, so I pointed at it. "When did Robert first get sick?" I asked. She pulled up his chart and said his diagnosis was about 18 months ago. 18 months. My throat went completely dry. The nurse started talking about post-surgery care. My heart was pounding in my ears. "When did he start the transplant process?" I interrupted. She scrolled through the records and said his first appointment here was 14 months ago. I couldn't breathe right. Robert got diagnosed 18 months ago. He came to this hospital looking for a donor 14 months ago. He found me 12 months ago. The nurse looked at me with concern. "Are you okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, even though my lips felt numb. "Do you need anything?" I just shook my head. She left. Something in my gut kept screaming that the timing was too perfect. I pressed the call button, and when a different nurse came in, I told her I needed to use the bathroom. She unhooked my IV and said to take my time. I walked out into the hallway. The pre-op holding area was down the hall. I remembered the first nurse said Robert was in bay 12. I walked past it slowly and looked through the window. Robert was lying on a gurney with his eyes closed. A doctor is standing next to him looking at a tablet. I'm about to keep walking when I hear their voices through the partially open door. "Tell me about your support system after surgery," the doctor says. Robert opens his eyes. "My son's donating, so he'll help with recovery." "That's wonderful," the doctor says. "How long have you been back in contact with your son?" I stopped walking. "About a year," Robert says. "That's great timing," the doctor says. Robert actually laughs. "Yeah, I got really lucky." "What do you mean?" the doctor asks. Robert's voice is casual. "I hired a private investigator to track down my biological son after I got diagnosed. I gave the kid up 30 years ago and figured it was worth a shot to see if he'd be a match." Everything in me went numb. "That's smart thinking," the doctor says. "The timing worked out perfect," Robert continues. "The kid's been desperate for family his whole life. Foster care really messed him up. Soon as I told him I needed help, he volunteered immediately." He laughs. "Honestly, it was almost too easy." I turn around and walk back toward pre-op. A nurse calls out, but I don't answer. I walk past the surgical team, through the stairwell, down the stairs, through the lobby where the transplant coordinator runs after me shouting. I get to my car. My phone starts ringing. I turn it off. Robert found another donor 5 weeks later and recovered fine. He tried calling me over and over, but I never answered. I spent 30 years wondering why nobody wanted me. For 12 months, I had a father. Turns out he just needed my organs.